everybody. I thought I would go over a couple of problems with you on this worksheet. And I see that one of the very big problems is it's really hard because the grid is like impossible to see down here. So let's see what we can make of this. Okay, so first thing that you want to do on these top ones is you want to make sure that you're using the right function when you plug these in. So like pay attention to whether we're plugging it into f of x or if we're plugging it into g of x. Okay, that's important. So this one says, I want you to find or evaluate the f function. So I know I'm going to go to this function right here and evaluate it when x is equal to -6. Now, some people mistakenly plug that into all three of them. Well, if I had 3 different outputs for one input, it would no longer be a function. You can only have one output. So this tells you over here where to look. Now, I'll tell you that this is kind of confusing because x is on the right. So I'm going to fix this so that x is on the left. Okay, now with these inequalities, it's not symmetric. Okay, so I have to switch that around as well. Okay, so when x is -6, well, that fits this description right here. So I would plug it in here. So -6 minus 1 is -7. Okay, so only one output. Okay, let's see if we had a g function. So g of 0. Well, here's the g function. Okay, the equal sign is on the bottom one. So equal to 0, I got to plug it in here. So that is going to be 2. All right, let's look at something kind of yucky. Let's look at that. G of f of 20. So first thing I got to do is I got to find f of 20. So I'm going to go to the f function. If x is greater than 4, I should use the bottom function. Okay, so I'm going to plug in 20. So 13 minus 20, -7. Okay, now I got to find g of -7. So now I'm going to come over here to the g function, and let's see, if x is less than 0, which it is, it's -7, the solution is just 10. All right. Okay, now writing absolute value as a piecewise function. Absolute value, whenever we deal with that in calculus, we always have to write it as a piecewise function. And that's because we can't do calculus, I should say, a lot of things we want to do in calculus using absolute value. It just doesn't work. So we always rewrite it. Okay, so let's just look at what this graph looks like and see if we can't figure that out on our own. Okay, so I know that it just goes through like 1, 1, 2, 2, and then the negatives. So remember, this is symmetric to the y-axis. Everybody remember? If it would be even or odd, symmetric to the y, that's going to be even, just like y equals x squared. Okay? All right, so I'm going to break this up. And the easiest place, or the place you want to break it up, is you want to break it up into 2 linear equations. And I want you just to think about, well, if this is the natural breaking point right there. There's one equation on this side, and there's one equation on that side. Okay, let's look at the left-hand side. Okay, remember we said yesterday, or today I guess in class, that whenever you have to write an equation of a line, your goal is m and b, a slope, or I should say not m and b, slope and a point. Okay, slope and a point. Well, we know the slope, down 1, right 1. And maybe you can tell right away, this is the line y equals -x. But let's just look. We said the slope was -1. And let's say you're going, wow, you know what? I don't remember that. I wouldn't have remembered that. And so we just said, well, pick a point. What point would you like to pick? Let's say we used that point right there. And that's the point -1, 1. And then we plugged it in to our point slope formula. So y minus 1 equals m times x minus negative 1. So y minus 1 is negative x minus 1. I'm going to add 1 to both sides, and there it is. Now, that's one of the equations I have memorized, what the graph looks like, the graph of y equals negative x and the graph of y equals x. That's going to be very helpful. But notice how, if I totally forgot that, I can just go back to that basic thing, point, slope, point, slope. I can get that equation. Okay, so that's the equation of the left-hand side. And so that's the equation up until I get to right here, up until x is 0. So I got to say, well, as long as x is less than 0, I could say less than or equal to 0. You'll see when we do the other side. Doesn't matter where the equal sign goes. Okay, let's look at this side. So hopefully how we saw that this side over here was y equals negative x. Well, this side over here is y equals positive x. So I've got y equals positive x, but it's only, from here, I should put the arrow the other way. Let's do it that way. I don't know if that makes sense or not. Okay, so only if x starts right here and goes this way. So since I didn't include 0 right here, I've got to include 0 right here. So when x is a positive number, then the line goes this way. When x is a negative number, the line goes that way. Now, just so you know, I could have included x there. Now, if I can't include it in both spots, because if I include it in both spots, it would no longer be a function. Okay, so I got to watch out for that. So it doesn't matter which one. Now, when you write this as a piecewise function, we're going to look at how it was written in these other things. Okay, so skill that you want to use on a test or a quiz. If you have to write something and you can't remember the notation, look for it written on the test already and go, oh, I'm going to write it exactly like this. Okay, so we have two different equations right here. So I'm going to write f of x equals, and then I put this little bracket thing, and I usually go left-hand side first and then right-hand side. Okay, so this is like y right here. I don't put y equals in here. So it's like y equals negative x as long as x is less than or equal to 0. And then the other one is y equals positive x as long as x is greater than 0. Okay? So that's going to be important that we know how absolute value is written as a piecewise function. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, so the thing that I found is that it's copied, like you can't even see the background in here, but hopefully because there's just limited ones that you can pick from, it's not going to be too bad. Okay, so what I'm going to look at, so I'm going backwards. I have the graph. I want the piecewise equation. So I look at the natural breaking point, okay? So natural breaking point on this looks to be, okay, I thought it was at 4. Look, I did this terribly. It's not at 4. And the reason I know that is because none of these up here are at 4. Okay, so ignore what I just put right there, you guys, because that doesn't make sense. Okay, so, it's got to be that one, right? Okay, so let's just double check it, make sure that makes sense. Okay, so it would equal, this would be the line, remember, y equals x as long as x is less than 3. Yeah, that looks like y equals x line. Okay, and it doesn't include 3 because that has an open circle and there's no equals there. Okay, your brain sees this better like this. But we do want our brain to recognize this. So that, that's why those are there, is that you start to go, oh, okay, that's just this thing here. Okay, so it's telling me it's got negative slope. Its y-intercept would be at 3. And then I would be going down 1 over 1. Yeah, that's reasonable. So I'm guessing actually on this worksheet, that's why they left off the grid. It's just, you're kind of just going kind of quick. So number 1, this one is letter B. Okay, so you're just kind of looking at these and seeing which one easily fits. Okay? Let me see if there's anything else on here super duper hard. Piecewise, and I'm not sure, we usually cover these at the beginning of pre-calc in depth, but you know, they can be hard for people. Okay, I'm gonna let you try these, and we'll go over those tomorrow in class if you have trouble. I know where the questions are. Let's try one of these guys together. And I think I actually took these problems right out of the pre-calculus book. Okay, so let's do this one right here. And you're probably going, no, I could do that one. I'm not gonna do the hard ones yet. Okay, let's see. It's got two different functions. Okay, so this right here is a line. And okay, if I can find the slope and the y-intercept, that is the easiest way to do it. So this is the line, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. The slope is -1, and the y-intercept is 2. Okay, so there's that line. I'm still gonna have to get the bounds on there. Okay, this one is a line. Now, you could just use point and slope. You could do that. Sometimes you can kind of figure out where they're going to cross. It doesn't look like we can figure it out because the slope is down 1 over 3, so it's going to come through at a not nice spot. Okay, so I'm going to use the point. Maybe I'll use this point right here. I'm going to use the point 5, 0. And I know the slope is down 1, 1, 2, 3. So the slope is -1/3. So I'm going to go y minus y1. So you can now see why I picked that point instead of that one. Equals m x minus x1. So y is -1/3 x plus, because a negative times a negative is a positive, and I just multiply straight across. 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times 1 is 3. Okay, so remember that this is the same thing. 5 divided by 3 would go 1 and 2/3. And let's check. Yeah, that seems reasonable. Okay, so I always check for reasonableness in my answers. College professors complain all the time that students don't look to see if their answer is reasonable. Okay, that's a good practice. Okay, so we've got our two equations. So, and I call it f of x. We could call it g of x, doesn't matter. Okay, so it's either going to be -x plus 2 or -1/3 x plus 5/3. Okay, notice that I've already got the y. Don't put the y in here. Okay, let's see. It equals this top one. I always am looking on the x-axis. So when x is some number from 0 to 2, don't include 0, open circle, include 2. So I'm going to say 0 is less than or equal to x. Oops, I just said don't include 0. Is less than x, and x is less than or equal to 2. Okay, we never ever use interval notation on a piecewise equation. It's just too confusing to the reader. So always use this notation here. Okay, it's equal to this as long as x is a number from 2 to 5. Don't include 2, but include 5. So 2 is less than x, less than or equal to 5. And there it is. Okay, so hopefully this helps you if you're a little bit stuck. And then, again, try your best. Ones that you didn't know, sometimes a good strategy is look at the answer and see if you can work backwards. Okay? All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow.